Is the Nigerian government really doing enough to tackle insecurity? If not, as a growing number of its citizens are wont to believe, what then are the critical and strategic gaps that must be bridged as a way to enhance the capacity of the security architecture in the fight against banditry and terrorism? Now, could the recent substitution of military commanders by President Tinubu finally change the game against non-state actors in Nigeria? Well, these questions and many more questions. For answers on these and why there's a perception that the government is not doing enough to curb asymmetrical warfare, we're now turning to Group Captain Sadeeq Shehu, retired, a former Nigerian Air Force spokesman. Great to have you on the program today. Thank you for joining us here on Newsday.
What do you mean?
Well, for the benefit of the public and those who might not be aware of the terminology, could you help us explain the fundamental difference between conventional warfare and the asymmetric warfare that's currently plaguing Nigeria? How do the differences complicate the strategies that are required for victory and peace?
Thank you very much. Yes, these are terms that have been used in Nigeria for the past 15 years. So it is necessary for citizens and even policymakers, like in the National Assembly and the executive branch, to really understand what they mean. When we talk about conventional warfare, we are talking about warfare where like forces go against like forces. That is professional national militaries going another professional national military of another country, where the structure of the forces is similar. For example, in almost all countries, professional militaries are composed in sections, platoons, companies, battalions, brigades, and divisions, and so on and so forth. So almost, invariably, if you compare a battalion in Ghana, you are talking about the same battalion in Nigeria in terms of number of officers, number of men, and even number of equipment. So when, for example, Ghana is confronting Nigeria, we are not hoping that will happen. It is a professional military that is, meeting a professional military. If the Ghana battalion is more composed in its proper elements, in its proper, equipment that are supposed to be, and the Nigerian battalion does not have, it is expected that the Ghanaian battalion will prevail. So that is, a typical example of a conventional warfare. But over the years, we've stopped seeing country versus country, fight. What we see is that countries are battling with non-state actors. That is not national armies. For Boko Haram, for example, they do not care whether they are in a battalion, whether they are in section or in brigade. They just have any number of men and then they can launch an attack. The problem with in non-conventional warfare is that the non-conventional actor, he doesn't rely on this almost formula for like a battalion must have this, a section must have this, a company must have this. All he has is just the number of men at any time and he can attack. In conventional warfare, for example, they say if one force is in defense and you are going to attack, you go with a ratio of 3-to-1. That is, if you are attacking a place that is held by 10 people, you come with 30 people. That is conventional warfare. For the unconventional actor, he doesn't care about this mathematics because, he is not constrained by any table of equipment or number of officers or number of personnel that has to be before he attacks. So these are certainly the problem of this. The advantage that a non-conventional actor has over a professional is that by our own training as professional military, if you have a battalion that is not up to 780 or 800 officers and men, it doesn't have a certain number of armored personnel carriers, it doesn't have a certain number of ammo, that battalion cannot perform. That is not a problem for the Boko Haram guy or the bandit who is not trained on that. So these are so sometimes in unconventional warfare, the unconventional actor, he utilizes all the advantages that a conventional force has because he is not constrained by numbers, he is not constrained by equipment. Currently, our forces are fighting with a conventional mindset. That is, for example, when you talk of a battalion, you expect to have 700 to 800 officers and men. If it's an armored battalion, you are expecting a battalion of about 200 plus armored personnel carriers. Unfortunately, almost all our battalions are not equipped like that. So, and if a battalion goes without that number, as in our training, it is going to be short-handed. It is not going to perform effectively. So these are the issues that have to be looked into.
No, very well said. I'd like us, to focus a bit on the Nigerian government's measures that have been taken so far to address insecurity. How would you address these measures, particularly, regarding asymmetrical warfare? How is the Nigerian government's intervention working in that area?
So, with due respect, if we are discussing this, to be fair, we cannot discuss only this government. We have to go back to since we started having this myriad of security problems. Some will tell you from 2009, some will say from 2010. Whatever benchmark you took, that was when we started hearing of Taliban or hearing of Boko Haram. That is 2009, 2010. But along the way, to make matters worse, we started having bandits. We started having kidnappers. We started having about herders, farmers conflict. So all this has complicated. If you want to rate what a country at war or facing security challenges is doing, on the government side, you look at what is the government spending on security. Over the years, I can say for the last 5 years, when we look at the budget, national budget, the annual budget, what is Nigeria spending on security? I find from my research that Nigeria, for every year, it is spending about 12 to 14% of the total budget. It goes to security. When I say security, now this includes military, police, and all the other intelligence agencies. Now, when you compare, if Nigeria is spending 12 to 14%, is that commensurate with the security challenges? The answer is yes. If you look at comparator countries also that are having challenges, Pakistan, India, that is about the amount that they spend. But like the white men say, the devil is in the details. After allocating 12 at 14%, which is commensurate with other countries, what is that money being used for? Again, an analysis will show that Nigeria is spending that 12 to 14%, about 70 or 65 to 75% is going on salaries and allowances. Capital expenditure, leaving very little for operation, leaving very little for logistics, leaving very little for maintenance of equipment, leaving very little for training. This is the trend when we look at the budget. It is very easy for somebody to say, and that is what you media people do. You just take the budget and said, security is taking 40%. It is the largest. But the devil is in the details. And I think this is where our National Assembly has to come savvy. This has been our budgeting. When you check other countries, they don't spend that much on personnel costs. And how do you do that? The more you spend on personnel costs, it means you do not have money for operation. You do not have money for logistics. So I am happy when I had the recently appointed CDS, and this is one thing that is not happening between our military personnel, or I can say the top leaders, not the junior ones, and the political masters. You have to tell them the truth. I had him saying that Nigerian armed forces do not have enough equipment. Of course, we don't even talk of numbers. For 230, maximum 270, I don't think we're up to 300,000 personnel, all arms. For the size of Nigeria, for the work they are doing, that number is grossly inadequate. I am sure when this new CDS said that Nigeria does not have equipment, with due respect, it's been long I didn't hear any security chief saying this openly. And that is how it should be. I am sure most Nigerians are shocked because they will bring back this issue of, but it's security that has been carrying the largest budget for the 5 years. Yes, it is right, but I've told you what is happening. The large budget is going because nobody is supervising the budget. The National Assembly, apart from approving, that's just what they do. I just finished reading, I think last week, I hear that Navy is opening one massive building in Ogun State. Is that a way to use security budget? I'm just bringing that example. The people in the National Assembly, and I challenge them. I am chairman of Air Force district, so I tell Air Force to go and build a school in Sokoto because I'm from Sokoto. That is part of that 12 to 14%. That is part of that 12 to 14%. We have to stop doing this. Our National Assembly have to very savvy on how they structure. The budget as of now for security in Nigeria, as of size, it is okay. But it is not right-sized. It is not balanced. When you are spending 60 to 70% of your budget on recurrent expenditure, and when you call recurrent expenditure, I'm talking of salaries and allowances, definitely you have a problem. You are going to have a military that cannot fight. You are not going to have. You are going to have a military that cannot move. You are going to have a military that cannot repair its broken down equipment because all the money is going down there. Is going on personnel costs. Is going on building, structures that are not really necessary. We have to be very honest when speaking about these things. We do not have any country except Nigeria. The way we are doing we are using our security budget. When I say security again, I'm including Army, Navy, Air Force, even police and the rest. We are putting the money where it is not supposed to be. In defense, there is one saying, it is not how big you spend, it's how smart you are spent. We are not spending smartly. And I challenge everybody to look at our budget for the last 5 years. That is even going into the Buhari years. See how these things are allocated to personnel. See what is allocated to operation. See what is allocated to equipment. Compare with what obtains in other countries. We are far, far behind the curve. And unless we do that, we'll continue seeing big budget annually because that is what the average Nigerian thinks. During the screening of the service chiefs, I had senators asking, we have been spending this amount, but I would like to ask them, any senator that is in the house, how much did you follow to see how this money is allocated to each packet, like I did here? You don't do that. So you'll continue spending money, but you'll not get. One thing I am happy, I had one of the service chief, I think is the chief of air staff, Aneke. He was saying they are going to give value for money for every naira spent. This is how you pursue value for money. I give you 12 or 14% to budget. You have to give me a budget that at least your personnel cost is not maximum 45%. The other 55%, you spread it to operations. You spread it to maintenance. You spread it to logistics. You spread it to R&D. I don't want to see, various. Right now, there is a committee on security schools that they say President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has set up. Already, I see the mistakes because, with due respect, when you look at the training institutions we have across the security services, there are too many. There are too many. So that committee, if it wants to do its work, it should start thinking about merging some of these schools, about closing some. If not, you are just frittering money and doing duplicative institutions. This is the fact that we must say. The Senate, I heard that they are going to do one security conference. I just saw the notice today. These are the issues that they are going to discuss.
Well,
they have to know how to do security budgeting. Right now, we are not seeing that.
Allow me to interrupt you just for the sake of time. Very quickly, speaking of collaboration, the military and other security agencies, they often operate under different mandates, and it's clear. How effective do you rate their interagency collaboration and intelligence sharing amongst the Air Force, the Army, the police, in order to combat threats?
With due respect, the last set of service chiefs, I saw an improvement from their predecessors, this coordination. I saw an improvement, but still more needs to be done. And you say collaboration. Sometimes collaboration and coordination starts even from training. If the Army, for our small size of armed forces, if the Army is having its own different war college, Air Force is having different war college, Army is having different war college, even police, they will start having war college, then definitely again, that coordination, you are chopping it right from the beginning. Coordination, part of the training is joint training. All the security services, they can have their basic schools. They are trained, the basic training schools, they could have separate because they have different mandates. But when you are talking about operational level, you are talking about strategic level training, they should be coming more together. They should be coming more together because they are going to fight together. Like I said, the last set of service chiefs, there was an improvement from their predecessors. I don't have to be indiscreet and say what happened in the previous session during Buhari. At that time, we didn't see any collaboration at all. That is the honest truth. This set that left to General Gwabi Musa, we saw an improvement. That is not to say we are at home. We are not yet there. This one should build on it. Because lack of collaboration, apart from not bringing operational success, it also costs the taxpayer a lot of money. Because what the services can do together, you pay this one, you pay this one, you pay this one, that 12 to 14% that we are seeing in newspaper is a very big budget, is being frittered away. And I must caution the National Assembly. The situation where National Assembly members tell security agencies to go and do projects that have nothing to do with security in their villages is very, very unfortunate. It is a disservice to the country and it should stop. The service chief should have the guts to resist such pressure. If the worst comes to the worst, let them report to the president. Let the president take the decision. If the president wants to allow his lawmakers to be carrying security votes and be building roads and be building schools and leaving the security forces without equipment, then let him make the decision. If not, they should report to the president, and the president should talk to the National Assembly. That is happening too much. I could count several, as I just mentioned one. I saw Navy building one useless thing I say useless. What I mean useless because it doesn't add anything to the Navy's fighting power. It doesn't.
Well, former Air Force spokesman, Group Captain Sadeeq Garba retired. It's been a very insightful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsday.